Sylvia continues to lead, and with his only weakness appearing to be larger tracks, Oxford Plains should be happy hunting ground. But this place is fraught with unique perils that not many other ovals on iRacing share. Will he be able to keep it on the island without walls to rein everyone in? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Misfit Touring Series, and you'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert Hill Jr. Behind the scenes is our director, DJ Lyon, and he's using cameras provided by Doug Beard. Rob, the schedule has been a fantastic one. We've said it before. It is a who's who and a what's what of short track racing here on iRacing. And Oxford Plains, that's one of the originals.
Yeah, Oxford Plains, home to the Oxford 250, and winners such as Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and others, including two-time defending champion Cole Butcher here in Oxford, Maine. This is a 3/8 mile oval. Definitely one of the tougher races on the schedule. Like you mentioned, no walls to catch you on the outside, just sandy hills and grassy land as you work your way off the racetrack and try to gather it back up. 5 degrees of banking in the turns here today, so these drivers definitely going to be fighting to get down onto the inside and work their way around this track quicker than anybody else.
Now, as for the championship, right now, Jake Sylvia, as I mentioned, is leading by a little more than 30 points, with Deegan Smith and Tyler Mueller chasing behind Matt Urban and Keegan Busch round out your top 5. But it does look like the cars have gridded up here. So as they head on around, we are going to head to our first of our grids here, the heat one of multiples that we'll have here today. 2 different heats that they'll be racing. Does see the car of Jeremiah Rychecki on the pole position. Bradley Stefane will be second. Keegan Busch will be third. Kyle Adams will be fourth. And it's Corey Vaughn and Kendall Becker rounding out your 6 cars for this first one. 3 will advance to the feature on this one. So half the field will find themselves heading off into the last chance qualifier, and drivers who are in the top 3 are going to be heading off to the feature automatically.
Yeah, looking at the format here tonight, Joe, it does look like the top 12 advanced from qualifying, and like you mentioned, top 3 from each of these heat races will advance directly to the A main here today. Otherwise, you'll have to race through the last chance qualifier. And here in heat race number 1, Kyle Adams has opted not to take the grid. I believe he's going to take a step back tonight and work the race controls behind the scenes.
Let's take a look at the car that they are going to be racing as well. Obviously, this a new addition to iRacing over the past year. Robert?
Yes, this is the late model stock 500 brake horsepower, naturally aspirated 350 cubic inch V8 under the hood of these cars, with the 4-gear H pattern shifter with a front engine rear wheel drive. Of course, a heavier car at 3,100 pounds. So these drivers are going to be wrestling that steering wheel to get it underneath them and work their way through these sweeping corners. And of course, you take a look there to the dimensions. Track is about to go green, so the pace car off. We are underway here with Jeremiah Rychecki on the loud pedal, Joe.
He immediately gets to the bottom to hold off Bradley Stefane. Looks like most of the drivers know the deal at this track. It is definitely a bottom line circuit, but they're still fighting towards the back. And look how close to the rear end Bradley is getting to Jeremiah, trying to see if he can just nudge him up out of that groove.
Yeah, you see Bradley Stefane on the bottom here trying to get by Jeremiah Rychecki. Not able to get there quite yet. You're going to see that bumper used quite often throughout the evening. You have to move the car up ahead of you. You don't want to be stuck on the outside. You can make a pass up there, but it's very, very risky, especially with no walls on the outside. You step one wheel off that racetrack and you are going for a slide down the hill into the dirt or the grass, and you're going to have to battle to get your way back up there. But you see Rychecki work his way up the racetrack just a little bit. Bradley Stefane thought he had an opportunity to get there, and you just saw right there, Stefane hit the curbing on the inside. That kind of messes up his exit a little bit, so you're going to have to watch the curbing on the inside and the lack of walls on the outside here at Oxford Plains. A very interesting racetrack here tonight.
Yeah, I was just going to say another feature that you don't see a lot at most ovals is that curbing to the inside either. So just so many idiosyncrasies to this place that is unlike any others. A little bit wide there for Safane as it looks like he's starting to struggle, and Keegan Bush taking a look. But remember, 3 out of these 5 will automatically be entered into the feature. We understand that all cars will manage to make it through. So this is more about starting position. Keegan sliding underneath of Bradley with a nice move there.
Yeah, nice move there by Keegan Bush to get by Bradley Stefane. You see Stefane, like you mentioned, struggling a little bit here, trying to arc it into those corners, but doesn't seem like he has the rotation he wants behind the wheel of that 89 machine. But Keegan Bush trying to work his way forward now, see if he has anything with just 2 and a bit to go here now. Just 2 to go as popsicle sticks are displayed for Keegan Bush, chasing down Jeremiah Rachecki. And like you mentioned, this is all about starting position now, with everyone transferring to the A main through either this heat or the LCQ, but you want the best starting spot absolutely possible, as passing very hard to do here.
It is, and white flag is out. Last lap around for the 178 in this first heat of the night. He's been leading since the drop of the green, and he's going to lead the last lap to the checkered flag as Jeremiah Rachecki is going to take the win for the heat. Keegan Bush will be in second, Bradley Stefane third, Kendall Becker was fourth in the end, with the last of the field winding up being Corey Vaughn. So there is our results for the first 10 laps. There you can see those top 3 will find themselves much better starting positions, as the rest will have to squabble for the lower spots. And that takes us to heat number 2, with Carter Stark starting on the pole for this second one. John Gifford will be in the second position. Matthew Moniak will be P3, as Terry Wangsness will be starting fourth, and Tyler Lugo Vickery rounds out your 5 cars starting off on this second one. You know, the other thing we haven't touched on that is also kind of interesting, a few other ovals like this, Rob, in that it's almost kind of a donut shape. There's no real straightaways here.
That's exactly right. You are constantly turning the wheel to some degree. As we get a nice shot of the racetrack here, you can really see those rounded, quote unquote, straightaways that we have here at Oxford Plains. So this is, you don't really have the opportunity to take a break of sorts as you do at some of the other tracks where you get those long straightaways, opportunities to set yourself up for the next corner, because really you're always in the corner.
So how much is that going to wear on the tires, especially once we get to the feature race? The drivers will have to mind that over the course of the full length of that one, considering they're not allowed to change the tires. It's 100 laps around here, so they'll be wearing through those, no doubt. Looks like Pace Truck about to head on in, and Carter Stark will be given control of the field. Looking for the call from the flag stand, and there it is. Green flag is out, and he gets a good jump, but so did number 3 of Moniak. He's going to be able to snatch second place away from Gifford.
Yeah, great jump there by Carter Stark and Matthew Moniak. Like you mentioned, Moniak clears John Gifford. Gifford going to try to battle back and get that position back, but you see right there, Moniak all over the rear end of Carter Stark. He doesn't want to just get into second. He wants to work his way all the way up to the lead, because of course, yes, this is going to give them an opportunity to race in the A main, as everyone will tonight, but it's just one step closer to the front of the field. Less work you're going to have to do in the feature, but right now it's all Carter Stark and Matthew Moniak, as Stark continues to lead here on lap number 3.
The 3 car looking underneath down into turn 3 appropriately, but unfortunately not able to put it there, and we'll have to stay behind. Just can't seem to get the overlap on that number 92, as we got a battle for 4th and 5th between Wangsness and Lugo Vickery. Looks like the 11 might actually have this one away.
Yeah, it does look like that is the 17 of Terry Wangsness does clear the Tyler Lugo Vickery machine. Vickery just trying to find that lane to work his way back forward, see if he can get an opportunity, maybe get a run here off of turn number 4 into what we're going to call the front turn here today, setting up into turn number 1. That 11 machine just trying to work his way forward. At this point, you're trying to set yourself up with a better starting spot in the LCQ, but Vickery looking just for a little bit more here as Carter Stark continues to lead just past halfway, 4 laps to go.
And with a decently healthy lead, it's about 3/10 of a second, so he's got himself a car length or so. He continues to blink, though. Internet problems, unfortunately, for the 92, which could prove to be a problem once we get to the feature. And if he winds up close around anybody else racing him, it can be a bit of a concern if you don't know where that car is. But as we come around to 2 laps to go right now, he's got nobody to fret about.
Yeah, Moniak looking for an opportunity as he clips the curbing there on the inside of turn number 2. That kind of set him back just a little bit towards the front end of the John Gifford 46 machine. White flag is displayed. Just a couple of turns to go here for Carter Stark, as Stark looks like he's going to run away with heat race number 2 here. Stark slides up to the high side, looking for an opportunity just to get a good run here off of 4. Checkered flag is out. Carter Stark takes heat race number 2 over Matthew Moniak and John Gifford, with Wangsness and Lugo Vickery heading to the LCQ. Actually, looks like we're going directly to the feature here, skipping that consi here tonight.
All right, getting right to the thick of the action as they are gridded up and ready to go. So why don't we go through our starting grid? More than just the 10 cars that you saw racing in those heats, the qualifying set the front of the grid. And Willie Nelson, no, not that Willie Nelson, is on pole position with Jacob Alexander starting in second. Matt Urban will begin from P3 as Tanner Burge will be in the 4th spot, and Josh Flynn starts on the inside of row 3, flanked by Michael Weissman. After that, James Polsky will start from 7th as Jake Sylvia didn't get a good qualifying this time, starts from 8th position. Actually, no, excuse me. He did get a good qualifying. They regridded the top 8 on that. Tyler Mueller will start from 9th. Top 10 here, Robert, going to be rounded out by Chris Story. What about the rest of the field?
Row number 6 is where we find Kenny Storkson alongside Timmy Spatz. Row 7, Jeremiah Ricecki. We saw him take the win in heat race number 1. He's going to start alongside Matthew Moniak. He's going to start along Carter Stark. I do apologize. Row number 8, Matthew Moniak alongside Keegan Bush. Row 9, Bradley Stefane and Kendall Becker. And rounding out the top 20 here tonight, Terry Wangsness and Corey Vaughn. Just behind them, Joe, rounding out the field, Tyler Lugo Victory, Kyle Adams, and John Gifford. That is your 23-car field here tonight at Oxford Plains.
Remember, this is a tiny little oval. It is only just shy of 4/10 of a mile in length. 23 cars around it, Rob, is going to be frantic.
Yeah, especially off the start, you're going to see drivers jockeying for position, trying to get everything they possibly can early on. Because as we saw in the heat races, once you get going, it can be rather tough to gain those positions. So your best opportunity to gain those spots is either right off of a restart or of course off this initial start, where you're going to try to get as many spots as you can and just slowly pick them off one by one. And I definitely don't see this race necessarily going green for the longest of runs, so you're going to have those restart opportunities, but it'll be very interesting to see what these drivers can do, especially those deep in the field.
We didn't see any wrecks and cautions in the heat races, but we'll see if we get anything in the feature. As we mentioned before, with no walls to the outside, could wind up that cars don't actually wind up in the racing line. Green flag is out, and Willie takes that throttle to the floor as he tries to beat Alexander down to the first apex. He's going to be able to get there first. Alexander now has to worry about Urban underneath him, and we get a yellow immediately, actually, and it's our winner from the first heat race, Ricecki, in the 178.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this one on the podium replay machine, but from what I saw, it looked like a bit of a stack up behind Kenny Storkson led to Ricecki getting hit from behind and spun around. So just a bit of a domino effect stack up leading to the first incident here tonight.
And we've seen previously, unfortunately, it looks like we won't get a replay of that one, that nose to tail contact is really undesirable in this car. One thing about this machine that is distinctive is, I mean, look at how sloped it is, and then look at the rear of the car. It tends to seem to want to lift it up, Rob. So we've seen a lot of drivers who make that nose to tail contact and fortunately send that front car around.
Yeah, so I was able just to take a secondary look at it, and it looks like Storkson actually hit the
the inside
the
curve.
curbing. There we go. I was trying to think I was going to call it bumpers. I'm thinking bowling here, but he hit the curbing on the inside, and that's what ended up setting him back a little bit there, leading to Rychecki getting into the back of him, and then that stack up. But Storkson going to get an end of longest line penalty here. So some short track style, sending the cause of the caution to the rear of the field.
Exactly, and it's really unfortunate for him since he really didn't get turned around by any of it, so he would have been able to carry on, but they've deemed him as the cause, so he'll have to start from the back of the fields. I believe they may have actually turned laps off here under caution like they did initially at the start of this race. I'm double checking on that because my timing and scoring is showing John Gifford is last, even though he's at the very front. It could be that maybe he just needs to be waved around. We'll see if they send that 46 around to the back of the field or not, because should be Willie Nelson, I believe, who is leading this race in the meantime. There we go. So that is the case. Excuse me. Looks like the laps will actually count on this one. So apologies. And Nelson will start from the front row as Gifford will get waved to the back. Waynesness ready to go. Looking like he's a little chilly, though. Let's get ready to go racing once again. We got the yellow flag very quickly. We didn't really get an idea of how this was going to shape out. So the green flag is out. Nelson accelerates very quickly up ahead of the 251, who manages to find himself a space at the bottom. That's going to be critical. He gets ahead of Matt Urban.
Yeah, great start there for Willie Nelson. He does have Jacob Alexander and Matt Urban there just behind him as they work their way down here through turns 1 and 2. Nelson, your early leader, as we see some double file racing just behind them there. That is Burge and Flynn, I do believe, side by side now just behind them. James Pileski coming into the picture as well in that 93 machine. Just everyone trying to get the positions earlier as we ride on board with Tanner Burge. He's got some company just behind him, and that got really close to his rear end bumper.
Flynn getting just freight trained, went all the way to the back of that first group, with thankfully a bit of a gap in between the first and the second group allows him to slot in there. But you can see in the background plenty of side-by-side racing, basically from 10th on back, as we take a look at the number 88 of Jake Sylvia. Remember, regrid a bit farther down, is only into 9th right now. He actually lost a position from the start.
Yeah, Sylvia didn't lose too much on the initial start. As you see behind him, nearly 3 wide. Now we are 3 wide. That is as we have one around. We are under caution.
And that is Carter Stark. Now, these cautions, we should clarify, are thrown by race control as well. So this is not run by iRacing itself. So yes, he was off the racing line, but they deemed that worthy enough to bring the yellow out. And so he'll head to the back, and he definitely had some help from the 67 of Chris Story, the way things have been going. And yep, I can confirm Story already given an EOL penalty.
Yeah, very quick work there by race control to deem that incident pretty clear as well for them. But Chris Story going to the rear of the field as Carter Stark now going to have to work his way back up. He's fallen all the way back to that 22nd and last position on the racetrack here. So lots of work ahead for Carter Stark. We saw some great pace out of him in the heat race earlier this afternoon. So he definitely does have the opportunity to work his way back forward and see what he can do to salvage a good finish here today.
We've had, what, about 5 or 6 green flag laps of racing. Terry Wangsness has passed 10 cars in that time. He is up to 10th position. So the 17 is not sitting around here. He's got plenty of race left, but he might not need it.
I think he's just really cold, as we saw from his onboard, so he's just trying to work his way forward much quicker. Kenny Storkson definitely looks like he's ready to hit the beach in that 57 machine. So polar opposites. One's freezing cold, one's very warm. So these drivers dealing with all the temperatures out here today. And, you know, speaking of temperatures, though, it tracked relatively warm, 100 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon. So definitely going to be feeling the effects of that warm racetrack as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's been hot in the warm-up and the qualifying all day. So the drivers are definitely dealing with some less than ideal conditions out there on this track. and they haven't quite gone 2 by 2 yet, so we're not going this time by. We'll probably get that 1 to go signal here in just a moment. But not only the temperatures, we got to remember also there's a lot of dirt and gunk that can be dragged on without those walls to block things in here, Rob.
Yeah, this racetrack definitely unique in the fact that if you end up getting spun into the infield, you could hit one of those sand piles and go up through the air. So when you're coming up through the rookie legend ranks back in the day, that was definitely your goal, but not what you want to do here tonight in these late models.
Exactly. Good for some fun, not good for great racing. As we go back to green flag, Nelson once again looking like he's got good control of this one, but third place is immediately spun off the course. That is Matt Urban, and he falls to the back of the field, but I wonder if it's going to be a black flag and end of line for the other car that made contact, which I didn't see who it was quite yet.
Yeah, that was definitely an unfortunate moment there for Matt Urban. As we see the replay loading up here, we'll take another look at what happened.
35, it looks like, just kind of sending him around. That is Tanner Burge. And it could be a case where the car inside him didn't turn enough, but I'm not seeing that from these replays. So we'll see. I haven't seen word from the stewards quite yet on whether or not they're going to send that 35 to the end of the line. And we have to remember, it's not just the typical short track rules of if you cause the yellow, you're sent to the back. If you cause, I believe it's 3, you are DQ'd.
Yeah, so definitely a lot at stake if you do end up causing a couple incidents, and race control has just ruled the 35 of Tanner Burge at fault in that incident, so he will fall to the tail of the field, as we do see Matt Urban working his way back around to join the tail of the field here.
All 22 cars are still racing right now, so the incidents have not been big enough that anybody is out of this quite yet. They don't have a spare car waiting for them too, so if anybody gets damage, they can't exactly just dive in, hop in the extra car and get back out there. You have to deal with whatever damage you get on it. You break it, you bought it. And looks like we have got the 1 to go signal as they go 2 by 2 once again.
Yeah, getting set to go green once again. Willie Nelson still the control car here. He's been out front every lap thus far. Jacob Alexander going to start on his outside. James Pileski, Tyler Mueller make up row number 2 as the pace truck about to make that turn down to pit road, Joe.
There it goes, and there goes Willie Nelson, who's going to take the lead away once again down to the inside of Alexander. Polsky looks like he might be able to take that second place away. They're wheel to wheel here through 3 and 4. And yes, indeed, the 93 now slides into P2.
As the green flag comes out, Willie Nelson on the road again gets himself a great jump ahead of James Pileski. Pileski is a very strong late model driver. He's taking a look, trying to dive to the inside of Willie Nelson. Not quite able to get there just yet. Mueller there in position number 3. He's trying to charge his way forward, as well as Pileski getting all over the rear end of Willie Nelson. Nelson trying to hold that top spot, slides up the racetrack a little bit, opens the door. Here comes Pileski to the inside. Pileski and Nelson side by side as they come across the start finish line down into turn number 1. Looks like Pileski gonna have the upper hand here on Nelson, but don't count out Mueller just yet.
Ironically, Nelson's not going to like being high here. He's going to want to try and get back down to the bottom as quickly as he can. And Tyler Mueller is going to block that off. So at least third place for that number 25. He finds an opening and is able to get in before Alexander shuts the door.
Pileski, Mueller, Nelson, Alexander, and Flynn, your top 5 here. Jake Sylvia just behind them here. He's worked his way up slowly through the field, now in position number 6. He is in a gaggle of cars. The 17 machine of Wangsness goes off the racetrack. He's nice and cozy as he goes back off the track, off into the dirt. He's switching spots with the guy that was ready to go to the beach here as Wangsness rejoins the field. He's going to fall all the way back outside that top 10, now all the way back to position number 22, but he was able to save it, stay on the track, which is definitely a tough thing to do here. But James Pileski now under pressure from Tyler Mueller. Mueller trying to close the gap behind that 93, as we may have a battle for the lead here in the next lap or 2 as Mueller closing that gap.
Whoa, but 3 wide did not work out, and we got cars on their lid. This was the
That
big
was a hard
one.
hit, Joe.
Bush is
Wow.
involved. Spats is upside down. Looks like
Oh!
the 3 backs into people and makes it worse. That's not going to go down well.
Moniak looking like a maniac right there with that reverse incident into a couple other trucks as the pace truck nearly takes him out.
So I believe if we check the replay on this one, I think that 27, yeah, he gets his nose in, starts the 3 wide, and Moniak tries to carry on, but unfortunately when he gets turned sideways, it is just an absolute pileup out of 4 into pretty much the only wall on this track that you can hit.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much the only wall you can hit, like you mentioned, and that's going to take a couple drivers pretty much out of this event at this point. Keegan Bush is going to be ruled at fault. He's going to fall to the tail of the field, but Moniak and Spats both currently sitting on pit road. I believe Spats was the driver that found his way onto his lid, so definitely going to have to tow back to pit road, get some repairs done, and we'll see if potentially he could join this race again a little bit later. Doesn't look like any required damage for him, so we could see him back out there as soon as that tow ends.
And the real heartbreaking thing for Spats is he actually saw the accident starting to form in front of him, got out of the throttle and backed down, but those behind him didn't get the memo. So he was definitely an innocent victim in this one and got turned on his lid just because everybody kind of piled into him, even though he was really heads up in that situation. Also, I was seeing that Moniak was given a black flag, I assume, for that rejoin.
As we ride on board here with Timmy Spats, yeah, it looks like he does check up, and wow, you just saw it there. He goes from seeing the racetrack ahead of him to seeing the racetrack under him, which definitely is not what you want to see. Actually, I guess it would be above him as he was upside down. The Timmy Spats machine is, I do believe he's worked his way back onto the racetrack. So definitely a positive there for Spats. Some damage on that machine, but is able to rejoin the field. He's going to be 3 laps down.
That's going to be hard to make back up on this one. Not impossible with the lucky dogs, but especially with the way the cautions are going, but certainly is going to have a rough time, and I doubt that car is in good shape. That said, we actually have seen certain cars roll over and come back to lead the race at certain times in previous rounds. So not impossible, but we have a change up at the front. Let's not forget, Rob. Polsky now our leader, Mueller in second, and Nelson almost starting in the more desirable 3rd spot.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for Willie to get back on the inside lane, which is definitely the preferred line around this racetrack. He's going to be starting right behind that 93 of James Pileski. Pileski's gotten great restarts throughout the event here tonight, so as long as Nelson can time it perfectly, he should have an opportunity to clear Mueller and Alexander down into turn number 1 and have a good opportunity here as pace truck's off, and we are back underway. James Pileski, Tyler Mueller on the loud pedal.
Nelson not on it as well, though. He unfortunately has to fall in behind the 78 of Mueller as they come around onto the backstretch now back under green. Ooh, a couple drivers dipping and diving around the 88 of Jake Silva trying to find a place, and he unfortunately gets checked up. The 67 gets turned around. No caution yet. There it is.
As we are back under caution once again, Chris Story involved for a second time here tonight. Big checkup leading to that incident. Looks like Sylvia cut down into the inside lane and just a stack up behind them here. We'll take a look on the podium replay machine though.
I mean, he was clear. He had the space, but yeah, the 67 who kind of gets into the back of him starts the slide, and then Sylvia catches it, but the 67 also is trying to slow up, and Bradley Stefane eventually turns him completely around. A couple other cars, I think, made contact, but everybody else actually made it through.
It doesn't look like anybody really got too much damage on their machine in that incident, which is a good thing about short track racing. A lot of times you might have those spins, but they're at relatively slow speeds. You're not going to take as big of an impact unless you decide to flip over like we saw in the last one. But looks like everyone is going to be able to continue on. We'll wait and see what race control has to say if there is anybody ruled at fault. And if Chris Story is ruled at fault for that incident, that would be his 2nd of the evening here already before halfway.
Yeah, only Kyle Adams down on pit lane right now. So he's taking his service, but not sure if we'll see him back out. Also, Spats and Moniak, as we know, had to visit pit lane for a few repairs, along with Keegan Bush and Kenny Storkson. Everybody else still out there and hasn't had to come in to beat away on the sheet metal quite yet. So there is definitely some discussions happening over the radio, I can tell you. I can imagine the temper's starting to rise a little bit inside the cockpits.
And you're definitely going to see that in short track racing. And I do want to just quickly point out our biggest mover of the event thus far, Tyler Lugo Victory in that 11 machine, started all the way back in position number 22. So basically dead last of the cars that started the race, now finds himself up in that 9th position. So 13 spots gained thus far here for Tyler Lugo Victory, and a great run thus far.
I think he's going to have a challenge from behind at some point, because Terry Wangsness is already up 4 and he was down 2 early. So he's passed 6 cars since he had that moment that slid him off the track and he lost all of his hard work. We'll see if he can keep pushing once again, because it certainly looks like he is fast today as we get the 1 to go now, and we go double file with Polsky now on the lead in our restart. Did Nelson learn anything from that one? Can he try to get the inside of the 78? He's going to get on the throttle, and the gap is maybe there if he wants to stick his nose in. No, the door gets shut.
Yeah, looks like he tried to get there, just didn't have enough pace on that front straightaway to get to the inside of the Tyler Mueller machine. Did everything he could, but just not able to do it. Looking a little bit further back. Actually, we're going to ride on board with Michael Wiseman as he is currently battling it out with that 23 of Josh Flynn. We're under caution once again here.
That was Wangsness. Then I see he turned around, but I think maybe he was just kind of collected on this one. Oh, yeah, he was. I can see on my replay that Kendall Becker is the one that initially goes around in the 20, though I think, again, the same old story we've been seeing tonight. He gets a little bit of help from behind that puts him facing the wrong direction there in 1 and 2. And it is Chris Story who is involved in yet another incident.
Not a great start to tonight's race for Story or Wangsness, for that matter, as both drivers have been involved in a couple incidents here tonight. Just there and getting spun out or spinning somebody out in the event, but they will be able to rejoin the race and see what they can do to work their way back forward. But Wangsness going to be towards the tail of that lead lap group, so lots of work to do if he wants an opportunity at a top 10 here tonight.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Story was black flagged. We're going to take a short break, however, here on Podium Esports. We'll be back with more action here at Oxford Plains Speedway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Oxford Plains Raceway, actually, I should say, instead of Speedway. It is James Polsky here, restarting on lap 52 from the top spot in a moment. We still haven't gotten the 1 to go signal quite yet, but we should shortly. It has definitely been a bit of a caution-filled race. We haven't had too many long stints of green. Is that just going to up the urgency, Rob?
I definitely do believe that we will see the intensity and the urgency fly up through the roof here, as these drivers know they don't really have a ton of green flag opportunity. So you're going to need to do what you can when you can to get those spots and charge your way towards the front, as it looks like the pace truck getting ready to go off. We're about to be green once again, Joe.
Polsky with a good jump, as once again Willie Nelson tries to see if he can find himself some space, but no, Tyler Mueller is on top of things. He continues to be able to lock down that second place time after time. Caught on the outside, Jacob Alexander, unfortunately going to get freight trained to the 78, gets turned around in front of the whole field, almost rolls onto his lid. He'll stay right side up, but it looks like we got a few cars involved in this one. Trying to make out who the other driver, it looks like, oh, that is actually Willie Nelson that gets turned, and he makes some more contact with Kendall Becker.
As we just saw Becker decide he's going to go over the sand dunes in that number 20 machine. Incident there for him, as we're going to take a look at the replay.
So this is looking at the 20 who had a late involvement in it, just both of them trying to get going. Couldn't see each other around the sand dune, it looked like, and the 20 gets turned, unfortunately. It starts, though, I believe, interestingly, with the 78 of Mueller getting into the back of Polsky, who catches it, but Mueller gets sent around when he tries to back out of the incident that he almost started.
Just of note, under that last incident, actually here, we'll take a look at this replay once again. Oh!
Yeah, Polsky does a great job of catching it. That's the second time we've seen that. Remember, Sylvia got pushed and had to gather the car up, but it was everybody behind that wound up having the worst of the incident.
Pileski just about got turned in that incident there. That could have ended up being the entire field, as it started right up there at the front. Unfortunately for Mueller, he did have a rough moment there, but under the last caution, Joe, a black flag was issued to Chris Story. That was his second incident caused of the day. Yeah, you see right there, the 78 gets underneath the rear end of James Pileski, nearly sends him around. Great save by the leader, but that leads to basically the rest of the field getting involved in some way, shape, or form in that incident.
And waiting to see if we get a driver sent to the back. Remember, it was Mueller in the 78 that initially made the contact to the rear of Polsky, but he hasn't been given the end of line yet. Maybe they just haven't sent that one out. Usually it's been the car behind that makes the initial contact that they're giving it to. Though sometimes the driver in front, if they slip up, they've been deeming them at fault on that one. But Mueller still running in 15th as it sits. And no, they are not giving him an end of line. We are going to get going. Double file once again, restarting on lap 60 of this race. We're well into the second half of things now. Polsky, since he took the lead away, hasn't really looked all that challenged, but Jacob Alexander has been able to promote himself into second, avoiding that wreck as the green flag is out, and we are underway. He tries to come back down to the bottom as Josh Flynn says, no, you don't. I've got my nose in there. He's going to try and take second.
Already some battles just behind the leaders. John Gifford under pressure from Jeremiah Rychecki. We saw him go around a little bit earlier in the event here tonight. He was very quick in our heat race. Now finds himself battling his way back towards the front. Currently in position number 7 in a gaggle of activity here. Sylvia now jumps into the top 5 for, I believe, the first time tonight. Sylvia now chasing down Michael Wiseman. Wiseman had himself a solid run going early on, now finds himself in 4th, chasing down Jacob Alexander, Josh Flynn, and of course our race leader James Pileski, who has taken control of this race and just wants to stay out front and not look back.
Gifford and Urban banging doors a little bit as we ride on board with Matt, and he's going to have the nose ahead, but the well-worn nose of John Gifford is not giving up. Despite the dents in it, he's going to do his best to see if he can hang tough here. He might want to try and get in line soon, because Rychecki is going to close up that gap there at the bottom quite quickly. In fact, I think he has, and now the 46 is stuck on the outside.
Yeah, definitely don't want to be stuck on the outside here as Rychecki nearly gets into the side of the Gifford machine. Gifford falling back, trying to get himself into position. You can see the nose on that one as Rychecki goes around. A little bit of contact there with Gifford. Oh, wow.
He was facing
Wangsness
wrong.
just used Rychecki as a ramp right there.
He absolutely did. And, you know, I thought that maybe he had been passed by the entire field, but that was absolutely not the case. And like you said, Wangsness was the first on the scene that was unable to avoid. Let's take a look at the replay. Did the 17 actually end up on his wheels? I think he did. He's still running. And oh yeah, when you see this, I mean, there's nothing you could do in that situation because you can't keep rolling. It's hard to miss a moving chicane, but he doesn't want to stop. Man, he was just stuck between a rock and a hard place.
You got to wonder how much Wangsness could actually see. It looked like he was tucked in behind the car ahead of him there coming around. So I really do wonder if he had a lot of visibility of that stopped car. We'll see here as we're back on the podium replay machine on Terry Wangsness watching for the Rychecki machine. You definitely see him go around. Yeah, he could see him there. I think he might have been expecting the car to slide up a little bit more than it was, and just unfortunate there for Rychecki, who ended up getting the brunt of that damage. But Wangsness definitely has a fair bit of damage himself. You see that right front, yeah. As he didn't get enough airtime. He just wanted to go back up, riding over one of those sand dunes as he works his way to pit road with some damage on that 17. But Plesky continuing to lead here with just 32 laps to go.
Yeah, Wangsness eventually getting to his pit stall and needing extensive repairs. A bit of a shame with how well he was getting back through. Also, the thing that struck me, I was talking about that battle with Matt Urban. Remember, he got spun around and sent to the back of the field. He's back up to 6th position. So it's been an up and down night, but I have to give credit to the 48 for hanging with it and not giving up.
Yeah, I think Matt Urban's run a really smart and strategic race, just trying to find the right opportunities to get by, obviously taking advantage of these cautions and incidents ahead of him as well. But Urban definitely done a nice job, going to restart on the outside of row number 3. And if he can get himself a good restart, he's definitely going to have an opportunity to battle back towards that podium once again.
Absolutely. Will get opportunities if we can get some green flag racing, or if
that's key.
Yeah, if he can miss the cautions in front of him too, because that has certainly helped out a few drivers. As we're going one more lap around. I know they've double filed, but they've extended it just one more. Make sure that they get everybody in an order that they're happy with. In fact, the reason why is I just saw that they've changed the restarts to single file, so that is why they have done that, although they're still trying to stay double file here. So are we actually going single file, or are we just looks like we are going to go double
April
file.
Fool.
Yeah, there we go. Very early April Fools. The green flag is out, and Polsky is going to be able to take the lead once again. Flynn on the outside of Jacob Alexander, who are squabbling for 2nd place. And don't look now, championship leader Sylvia has found himself in the top 5.
Yeah, as soon as Sylvia gets his nose in there, basically claiming that inside lane from the 23 of Flynn up on the outside. Flynn now going to fall back as Sylvia has that preferred lane on the inside, just trying to work his way back forward. You're going to have to keep an eye on Sylvia if he gets the green flag opportunity to charge his way forward. I think he's got one of the strongest cars out here on the racetrack tonight. And of course, the only multi-time winner this season. You can never count Jake Sylvia out of it, as Flynn just absolutely getting used up behind him, falling back even further. He's gonna have to struggle to likely stay in the top 10 here shortly, as he's getting freight trained on the outside.
Now, Weissman down on the bottom side of him, not going to give him an opening. He could maybe slide in there now if he wants to. Flynn tries to get himself to the bottom line and successfully gets in line with the rest of the group. Tanner Burge now on the outside of Gifford is the one trying to see if there's any chairs left in this game of musical chairs.
Definitely looking for his chair at the table, see if he can get involved and just stay with them here. Sylvia all over the back end of Jacob Alexander. He actually takes to the high side here, seeing if he can get an opportunity, maybe looking for a bit of a crossover as he gets back in line just behind the Alexander machine. 3-car battle for that second position. That's what James Pileski wants to see, as well as the green flag staying up in the air as he can pull away as these drivers duke it out for position, maybe get into each other a little bit, slow themselves down, and allow Pileski just to pull away as he has nearly a 6/10 of a second lead here with just 20 laps to go as they come across the line this time.
As we see the view here from the third place driver of Sylvia, just sticking to the rear bumper of Jacob Alexander. He has to be close, but we've seen you stay too close and you can accidentally tip that car in front of you around.
As we saw right there, Matt Urban, yes, Matt Urban back to fourth, nearly got into the rear end of Jake Sylvia as he's all over the rear end of Alexander. Now looks to the inside. He's going to stick his nose in there on the inside of Alexander. Alexander now gets pushed up to the high lane. We'll see if he's able to hold it. Looks like he's having a nice run. Sylvia up into the side of Alexander. That's definitely going to give him the position here, but also not make Alexander too happy. So if he has an opportunity, you may see that bumper come into play, but now he's got to work his way back on the outside of Urban. Urban nearly slides up in Alexander as well. He's falling back at this point, and it is not the right time as we're getting closer and closer to the end of this one.
Eventually the elbows had to come out. Ricecki's heading back into pit lane with some sort of issue, not sure what. And way up on the high side, is that another lapped car? That is Carter Stark, who is indeed a lap down, so he's trying to get out of the way of the leaders. We're down to 16 laps, 15 laps to go in this race. Once we got to green flag running, it's going by quickly.
Absolutely going by very quickly at this point. Just 13 cars left on the lead lap, by the way. The leader, Pileski, has lapped a number of them here tonight. Obviously, some damage has come into play as well. But James Pileski running an absolutely phenomenal race here tonight. 6/10 of a second is his lead over Jake Sylvia. Matt Urban currently running in third. Urban's done a phenomenal job tonight, Joe. You mentioned it earlier as Pileski. You see him clip the curbing there. That's going to give Sylvia an opportunity to close that gap, already down to 0.3 of a second. So he's cut that lead in half in just a matter of a lap or two here. So Sylvia, I think he's got a good piece here to battle with Pileski.
And James, this is his only his second race in the league. So he's definitely established himself well, but can he keep himself ahead of the championship leader of Jake Sylvia with down to 11 laps to go? The 88 still filling the mirrors of that number 93 as we look a little farther back to the 45 of Weissman, who can't quite seem to get on the podium past Urban.
Yeah, he's trying everything he possibly can here. You may see the bumper come into play here as we are 10 laps to go. This is an opportunity. If you want to use that bumper, you can definitely do so with just a couple laps towards the end of this race. You want that podium finish. Of course, it is some extra points on the chart here for you, and a nice opportunity to show your hard work that you've had here tonight. But I think the battle definitely about to be on for that race lead as Sylvia closing in further and further to the back of Pileski as they're catching some more lap traffic. That is the 12 machine just ahead of them there. We did see him up on his hood a little bit earlier, so this is going to be quite the fight with just 7 to go, Joe.
Yeah, Spatz maybe 5 laps down from the leaders, but he's up to 18th, so he's gained quite a bit. Lap traffic not giving the opportunities I think that Jake Sylvia quite wanted. I wondered if maybe that would open a door or two for him, but they've all been extremely polite here at the end of the race, moving off to the high side to let him go. The 88 is going to have to do this the hard way.
Yeah, Sylvia just looking for the opportunity to pass. I thought the lap traffic would be of assistance as well, and it hasn't thus far. So like you mentioned, great respect. As Pileski clips the curbing, Sylvia gets to the back of him, tries to move him up the racetrack. Pileski gets back down to the bottom. He is doing absolutely everything he needs to do to protect the bottom. 4 to go. Sylvia takes a look a little bit higher here, now tries to dive underneath as he clips the curbing and goes around.
He comes to a halt. He pulls off the racing line. No caution being
Wow.
thrown. Oh, gutting for the 88. An uncharacteristic mistake. Now that means that Polsky has got a clear track in front and behind him, with Matt Urban back by 1.3 seconds. It's 2 to go at the line.
Obstacle sticks displayed this time for James Pileski, his second start of the series, and he's looking like he's on his way to taking home his maiden victory here with just a 1 lap to go. 4 turns. Pileski, Urban, Wiseman, that's your top 3. Is, like you mentioned, Sylvia, uncharacteristic mistake as we head down the back straightaway for the final time here tonight, Joe.
It's only the second start, but James is a quick learner as he is going to take the win here at Oxford Plains in the feature race for the Misfit Touring Series. Excellent stuff there for James Polsky, who's going to lead Matt Urban home, who finishes second, and Wiseman gets promoted to third after the incident for Jake Sylvia. You know, I was kind of watching Jake before he had that spin. The car did look pretty loose as it was just rotating into the corners, but it seemed under control. I'm a bit shocked that he got as close as he did to the curb to risk that.
Yeah, I think at that point, he was just trying to do absolutely everything he could to set himself up for a dive underneath James Pileski coming to the 2 or 3 lap to go mark. But unfortunately for him, just got a little bit too low, just barely clipped the curbing, and that's just enough to send the car around. And unfortunately for Sylvia, that takes him from a potential first or second place finish all the way back outside the top 10 in 11th here tonight.
Well, that'll hurt in the championship. We'll talk about that in a bit because we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews coming your way.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back after round 5 here at Oxford Plains Raceway. It is James Pileski who takes the win here at this 0.4 of a mile track. Matt Urban was second behind him in the end after 100 laps of this race, with Michael Weisman finishing in P3. Tanner Burge was P4, followed by Jacob Alexander in 5th and Josh Flynn in 6th. Our pole sitter, Willie Nelson, eventually fell to 7th in the end. John Gifford finished 8th after gaining 10 from the start, as Tyler Mueller was 9th and Kenny Storkson was 10th. What about the rest of the field here, Rob?
Jake Sylvia suffers late race heartbreak, coming home in 11th here tonight. Kendall Becker in 12th. Corey Vaughn in 13th. Bradley Stefan comes home in 14th here tonight. Chris Story, after multiple incidents being involved in tonight, comes home 15th. Tyler Vickery in 16th. Carter Stark 17th. Timmy Spatz in 18th. Matthew Moniak 19th. Jeremiah Rachecki rounds out the top 20, and rounding out the field here tonight, Keegan Bush and Terry Wangsness.
So why don't we have a chat with our winner tonight, James Pileski, the number 93, who challenged our leader early in the race and then didn't relinquish that lead all the way to the end. James, congratulations. 2 starts and you take a win on the second try. I'd say that's a pretty good strike rate.
Yeah, you know, not too bad. A second and a first. I didn't expect to win this one, to be honest, though. I knew I'd be in contention, but I thought Jake was going to have me. So I got lucky with some of the shenanigans that were happening behind me. You know, I started, well, I don't know, seventh or something. And, you know, I got lucky on some restarts and he did not. So, hey, how about that?
Yes, I mean, was he making you nervous at all with how quickly he caught the back of you, or did you feel safe knowing that as long as you covered the inside, you'd be good?
Yes and no. So, like, I looked at one point, I'm like, all right, he's in second now, he's coming. And then as I was looking at that, I hit the damn curb. So that gave him like a half second. I'm like, oh, I'm like, he's here now. I'm like, well, that's stupid. So at that point, yeah, it was just protect the bottom because you're not going to pass me on the bottom. I'm not giving up the bottom. You're going to have to move me. Right. And he ended up moving himself, I guess.
Well, he caught the curb as well, and yeah, you're right. He moved himself out of the way. From there, I got to imagine that was probably a pretty good feeling coming to the line, knowing you had, gosh, it was a second and a half back to Matt Urban.
Yeah, I was kind of like waiting on a caution. I'm like, you know, I'm looking in my mirror and he's spinning. I'm like, all right. So I kind of lifted for a little bit. I'm like, are we having a caution? And then it never happened. So I just kind of, you know, I just kind of limped around the last couple laps. Wasn't really pushing it there. I couldn't see anybody behind me. So I'm like, all right, cool.
The best sight that you can want to see in the mirror, I imagine. Congratulations on the win. We'll be looking out for you in the future races.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
That was James Spoleski, the winner in the number 93 tonight, who finished ahead of Matt Urban in that number 48. I believe that Rob has caught up with him.
Yeah, standing by here with Matt Urban, our runner up here tonight. Matt, you had a roller coaster of a race. You ran up front, went to the back, came back up towards the front. Why don't you walk us through your event today? And do you think you had something for James Pulaski towards the end of this one?
Yeah, it was a wild one, that's for sure. We took off pretty early, had a few cautions early on, and I got hooked coming to the green, which was just an accident deal between Tanner and I. Tanner apologized about it, so there's no hard feelings there. And me and him got sent to the back, and we just stayed nose to tail and waited for the chaos to keep happening. And luckily, a few of them did happen, and so we passed some guys there. But I just kept being clean, being patient, trying to save tires as long as I could. But there's no way I was catching James. We had a restart. I wouldn't have caught him. I don't even think.
Yeah, Pulaski definitely very strong, but I think you had one of the strongest cars here today as well, able to battle your way back forward towards the front of the field. But what was the biggest challenge that you faced behind the wheel of that 48 machine here today?
Saving tires, that's for sure. This place eats up tires pretty big, so it's hard to go all out. And basically, when you start up front, it's hard to keep up with the other guy's pace when you don't want to go that fast early on, but you kind of have to, otherwise you get ran over. So that was a little frustrating. I couldn't run a set pace I wanted to run, but going to the back, you had to charge your way through as much as you could at the same time, as well as trying to save tires. But running in Golden Sands in real life is pretty much the same thing like this. There's no grip, a lot of quarter to half to full throttle if you're very lucky, but you barely use that. So this is one of my favorite tracks we actually run at.
Yeah, definitely a fun racetrack here, Matt. And just before we do let you go here this afternoon, any sponsors you want to thank or shout outs you want to give?
Just Kyle for putting this on, and it's a fun league. A lot of these guys, we all run together, or we're at the same racetrack during the summer, so it's kind of fun that we can all play together. So I definitely appreciate that, Kyle, and everyone else that's involved with this.
Well, great job here tonight. We wish you the best of luck in the rest of the season. And that is your second place finisher, Matt Urban. And now back to Joe standing by with our third place finisher, Michael Wiseman.
Indeed, Michael having to work his way forward, but taking advantage of a few others' misfortune there at the end of the race. Michael, you wind up on the podium. Oh, thought that he was going to be here with us. Let's pull him back in here for a moment. Michael, congratulations on a podium finish. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
There we go. Now we got him with us. Michael, it seemed like sometimes you just have to take the luck as it comes and goes with you. And it certainly came at the right time there at the end with the second place driver falling by the wayside.
Yeah, I feel bad for Jake. He definitely was moving, but kind of feels nice to beat him and get another podium finish in a row.
I can imagine you got to take those when they come. what was it like out there, especially with this being such a unique oval? There's no real straightaways. There's the curb. There's no walls around the outside. Was it difficult to adapt to, or did it feel pretty natural?
Yeah, to be honest, it kind of felt natural, even though this is my worst track. Just had to get used to saving tires a ton. The first 70 laps, I wasn't even pushing it at all. I was just riding around waiting for everyone else to fall off and start picking my way through.
We certainly saw a lot of action out there, and I'll be honest, I've lost track of who was involved in what. Did you have any real scary moments with cars flipping upside down and whatnot?
There's a few I was a little worried about, not gonna lie.
Well, well held, and great job staying out of trouble at the end. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you some more when we head off to Thompson.
Hopefully.
That was Michael Weisman, our third place finisher in the number 45 here tonight. So I believe that is going to wrap us up for this evening, which of course brings us to the next race, as we mentioned, Thompson Speedway, coming up on December 3rd. Another short little track, but this time more of a paperclip style and definitely a lot more banking around it. So it'll be a different style of racing, no doubt. And Rob, we'll have walls back.
Yeah, definitely nice to have that addition of walls. And of course, Thompson's very tight. So it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of beating and banging. If you love that type of racing, Thompson definitely going to be one for you to tune into. And of course, 2 days before Christmas. So somebody looking to get a present of a victory that night.
All right. Well, what did you think about this one, Rob? We came into it saying how it was going to be a big deal with no walls and the curbs and everything. And if anything, I'd say they played a much smaller part compared to just the racing itself.
Yeah, for the most part, it was a pretty good race here today. Lots of action, a lot of opportunity for these drivers to go from the front to the back, and maybe not what they wanted to do, but we saw some great battles all throughout. And of course, for Sylvia, that curbing definitely did come into play there, but great opportunity, and I hope to be back for another one in the future, Joe.
I'd love to have you back. We'd love to have you back when we come back on December 23rd. Big thank you to Rob, DJ, and Dougie. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.